Now, if you've been watching our trail running shoe reviews for a while now, you'll know that when it comes to shoes from the Scott running brand, it's been a little bit hit and miss for me over the years. From the top performing and very popular Supertrac RC, which I really enjoy running in, all the way down to the very disappointing Kinabalu 3. Now, that has to be one of the worst trail running shoes I've ever run in, if I'm honest. Just too stiff, way too heavy, an uncomfortable midsole, and an upper that caused my feet lots of irritation, and the list goes on. So when we got invited out to Switzerland for a behind the scenes tour at the Scott Running HQ, I was a little bit apprehensive about the whole thing, but really glad we went out. One, we had a fantastic time, and two, I got my hands on a pair of the new Kinabalu Trail. Now, I've clocked up a good 50 miles in this shoe now, and they really have been a very pleasant surprise, especially when I think of my previous experience running in a Kinabalu Trail shoe. So let's dive into the video and give you the lowdown about the new and exciting Kinabalu Trail. Welcome back, folks. Thanks for tuning in again. I'm Lloyd Purvis and this is Run4Adventure. Now, it seems like ages since the last time I filmed here in the studio at home, because if you've been following the channel, then you'll know that we've been on our first big European road trip in the new Adventure Bus 3.0, and we had an incredible time, and the new camper was just a revelation. So much more practical, so much more comfortable. It was fantastic. So we spent a month in the French mountain town that we love so much, Chamonix, building through to UTMB week, and what a week we had. And then we crossed over the border into Italy and stayed in Courmayeur for 11 to 12 days, following another iconic mountain ultra race, the Tour de Géant, and filming lots of content over the week. But we also got to run the Tour 30K, which hands down one of the best race routes we've ever run. Just stunning views every step of the way. And obviously we took the cameras along and captured the whole race. So there will be a race day video dropping on the channel soon. But the first part of the trip, like I've already mentioned, was in Switzerland, where we got treated to that behind the scenes tour at Scott Running HQ. And that is where these come in. So the new Kinabalu Trail. And I actually think we're giving you a bit of an exclusive today, because the shoes aren't releasing until January 2026. And I'm pretty sure this is the first full in-depth review on YouTube of the new Scott Trail shoe. So let's get stuck in, give you a few facts and figures. We're going to break down the new construction in a bit more detail, and then we're going to get some points on the Run4Adventure board and tell you all about how the new Kinabalu Trail has performed over those 50 miles. So first up, the team at Scott Running said the shoes have been designed to be that nice, lightweight, agile, fun shoe in your trail running lineup for distances of 5, 10K, half marathon, or maybe even marathon distance out on the trail. They're going to retail in the UK for around about £140 when they release. And weight-wise, they tip the scales at 250 grams in a men's UK 8.5. So a nice lightweight trail training shoe. We've also got a stack height of 33mm at the heel, 27mm under the forefoot, giving them a 6mm heel offset. And they should be available in 4 different colorways for men's and 3 different color options for women's. As far as the construction goes, we've got a nice lightweight, breathable, engineered mesh upper design with lots of structural overlays. So wrapping around the heel, the midfoot and the toe box. Speaking of the toe box, we also get a decent level of upfront protection from a substantial toe bumper and a good level of support in the back end of the shoe from a decent heel cradle. I'd say we've got a moderate level of padding around the ankle collar and in the heel cup, so not too much but not too little either. But it is a very different story when it comes to the tongue design. So it is quite thin in design, but I'm happy to report it is gusseted inside the upper, and I personally think that's always the way to go when it comes to a tongue in a trail running shoe. And Scott have been quite clever and added some zonal padding down the center of that tongue just to add a bit more comfort across the top of your foot when you pull those laces down nice and tight. And last but not least, we've got two locking loops on the lace system either side there, just to make sure that you get that nice secure midfoot lockdown for when you're pushing the pace on the trails. And there you have it, a quick sort of rundown on the new upper design. But let's move down to the new midsole construction. Now, if you did see my first impressions on the Kinabalu 3, then you'll know that I was very disappointed with the performance of that midsole. It was just really heavy, way too stiff and rigid, and the foam in the midsole was so firm. It felt like there was zero cushioning in that trail shoe. So the midsole was definitely an area on the Kinabalu that needed a big update. Well, I'm happy to report we actually got a massive update when it comes to the new midsole design. So this time around, Scott Running have gone with their Kinetic Fusion foam, which is a blend of EVA and P-backs to create a balance of lightness, comfort, responsiveness and durability. And the blend actually means you get a slightly softer heel section to soak up some of that impact when we're sort of running downhill on the trails, and then a slightly firmer forefoot just to give you that nice level of ground connection and stability. But it doesn't stop there, because they've also worked in their ER2 rocker technology. So basically we've got this nice sort of rocker geometry worked into the midsole, and that's been designed to lower the possibilities of heel striking but increase running efficiency. And then flipping them over to reveal the traction rubber outsole with its 4mm lug design, and you can see we've got a good helping of blown rubber on the bottom of this trail shoe, and it's broken down into 3 sections, so one either side of the heel, one under the forefoot there, and we've got some nice sort of sculpting and flex grooves worked into that midsole, which I must say seem to work very well, because this really is a nice flexible trail shoe. And I'd actually say it's the complete other end of the spectrum when I compare the midsole on these to that super stiff midsole on the Kinabalu 3. So there you have it, our exclusive look at the brand new Kinabalu Trail from Scott Running. But we've reached that point in the video where we need to get some points on the Run4Adventure board, and we always tend to start with the all-important price point. Now, like I was saying, I've clocked up some decent mileage in the shoes now, and I personally think for around about £140 here in the UK, that's a pretty good price point for the Kinabalu Trail. Obviously, I would always like our running shoes to be more affordable, but in the crazy world of running shoes with prices skyrocketing, I think that means that the Kinabalu Trail has got a pretty competitive RRP. So I'm going to score them a 7 out of 10 when it comes to price. Next up is comfort and performance, and this was an area where I really wanted to see some big changes, and boy have they made some big changes. So, you know, this is pretty much a brand new shoe from the ground up, and you know, they were telling us at Scott Running that we've got this new midsole compound, midsole design, a new last has been used for the shoe, so there's nothing really that ties it into the Kinabalu 3 apart from its name. Now, I thought that was a pretty brave move by Scott Running, keeping the Kinabalu name after the disappointment of the 3s. And I really hope that there's not sort of stigma attached to the Kinabalu trail shoe, because this really is a massive improvement when it comes to comfort and performance. First up, Scott have got rid of that sort of irritating rubbing upper that they had on the Kinabalu 3, and now we got this nice light, soft, breathable upper design, just the right level of padding around the ankle collar and in the heel cut for me, and that gusseted tongue has sat nice and comfy across the top of my foot with that zonal padding down the center. Really good lockdown around my midfoot and good hold in the heel, and happy to say zero rubbing, no hot spots, no blisters, nothing like that over the 50 miles of running. And if I remember right, I actually had a blister on the instep of my right foot after only about 6 miles in the Kinabalu 3. So it's been a very different story in these. As far as fit goes, I would say they're true to size, so my usual UK 9.5 has fitted just right on length, and I'd say they've got a pretty roomy toe box. Now, as a bit of context, I haven't got the widest foot in the world. I'd say I'm kind of average when it comes to that department, but the width does feel good and the depth, and it feels like I've got lots of wiggle room and it's nice and comfortable up front. And just to back that up, Liga's also got a pair of the Kinabalu Trail. She's really enjoying the fit of the upper, and in the past she has really struggled when it comes to the width of her trail shoes, with a lot of them just being too narrow and too pinchy. And like I said, she finds these very comfortable. So I would say they're true to size with an accommodating toe box. And then moving down to midsole and outsole performance, and again, night and day difference when it comes to comparing this midsole to the Kinabalu 3. So the first thing I noticed was the lack of weight when I put them on. You know, this midsole foam and midsole construction is just so much lighter than what we had before, and I actually think overall shoe weight is down by 50 or 60 grams, so a massive weight saving. So the days of it being a sort of bottom heavy brick of a trail shoe are well and truly gone, and I actually think Scott Running have got the blend of EVA and P-backs just right in these. So it means the midsole is comfortable, it's light, it's responsive, but you still feel like you get a decent level of stability when you pick up sections of more technical trail. But more importantly, they have just been great fun and exciting to run in straight away, straight out of the box. And that definitely wasn't the case in the Kinabalu 3s. And in fact, all I wanted to do after that first run in that shoe is get them off my feet. Now, I know I keep harping on about the terrible 3s, but I just really want to highlight how much this shoe has changed when it comes to comfort and performance, even though it still carries the Kinabalu name. And wrapping up, comfort and performance with the outsole, and it's done a decent job over those 50 miles. So this traction rubber has felt nice and sticky on any rocky trails, and the 4mm lug design has given me good levels of traction on the loose, dusty trails that I've been running in the Chamonix Valley. Obviously, I haven't tested the shoe out on wet, muddy UK trails yet, and I do think it would struggle a bit in really heavy, muddy conditions because it has only got a 4mm lug depth, but on everything else, I think it copes well. So when it comes to comfort and performance, the Kinabalu Trail has to score high, which has come as a bit of a surprise to me, and I've had great fun running in these shoes and I'll continue to do so. So I'm going to score them a very impressive 9 out of 10 for comfort and performance, which, like I said, is very surprising to me. And when I think back to my first run in the Kinabalu 3, I would have probably scored them a 1 out of 10 for comfort and performance because it was just so disappointing. So it really is a big update in every way. Finally, when it comes to scoring, we've got to talk all about the important topic of durability. Now, this is a pretty tricky thing to score after only 50 miles of running, but I've got to say it, the shoe's holding up well. There's no early signs of wear on the upper fabric or at the flex point, no overlay peel or anything like that. We do have a slight bit of creasing in the midsole foam, but it's not affecting performance in any way. Still feels very comfortable and well cushioned, and also outsole rubber holding up well. So I've got a slight bit of wear on the outside edge on the lugs of the heel there, but it is very slight. And when you take into consideration that a lot of those miles that I've run have been on the rocky mountain trails of Chamonix, which can be pretty tough on your trail shoes, I think it's doing a good job. So I'm going to score the Kinabalu Trail an 8 out of 10 for durability. So when you tally up all those points here at Run4Adventure, the shoes are going to come out with a very surprising score of 24 out of 30. And who would have thought it? A Kinabalu trail shoe scoring so well here at the channel. Looks wise, I think it's a pretty good looking shoe, especially in some of the other colorways it's going to come in. I particularly like the banana yellow, black indigo, or the blue spray grey. And you know, again, looks is something that the Scott Running brand definitely needed to work on. I think it was something they fell short on before. So it's great to see them producing some cool looking shoes. So it is a big thumbs up from me when it comes down to looks. As far as comparisons go, so other trail shoes that are going to offer you a similar fit, feel and performance, I would say that Saucony's very popular Peregrine or Merrell's Long Sky 2 aren't a million miles away. So they're both sort of lightweight, responsive but comfortable trail shoes that are going to offer you a decent level of grip and traction from the outsole. So wrapping up today's review with a quick conclusion, and I've been really impressed with how the team at Scott Running have turned around the Kinabalu franchise and created an exciting, fun trail shoe to run in with the Kinabalu Trail. And I've got to be honest, I was a little bit nervous about heading over to Switzerland to meet up with the team at the Scott Running HQ after my slightly damning review of the Kinabalu 3, but I shouldn't have worried. We were made to feel very welcome. We had a great time, and they'd all actually watched the review and listened to my feedback, which I personally think speaks volumes about a running brand. So I'm expecting big things from the Scott Running brand in 2026 when it comes to the new range of Kinabalu trail shoes, in particular the Kinabalu Ultra, which looks like an awesome trail shoe. And on that note, it brings today's video to a close. Really hope you enjoyed it. Really hope you found it helpful. Don't forget, if you did, to like, comment, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. It really does help the channel out, and it is completely free to do. If you've got any questions about the Kinabalu Trail, please feel free to get them in the comments below, and I'll try and get back to them as soon as possible. Hopefully, this sort of head cold, chesty thing that I've got going on is going to clear up soon, and we can get back out on the stunning trails of Cornwall and get back to testing out some shoes, because they are stacking up in the corner there. But for now, guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for supporting the channel. It's always appreciated. We'll be back here soon with some more interesting and exciting running content. And as always, stay safe and keep on running. That's a pretty good competitive price point for a shoe with these features and that performs in this way. So I'm going to give the blah, 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 blah. But let's move down to the all-important midsole construction. Now, if you did see my first impressions on the Kinabalu 3,